Welcome back for the third part of the stories of New Atlantis. Like SSNN, Galbank is an independent organization, but instead of producing news, Galbank mints credits, the settled system's digital currency. Most day-to-day transactions across the settled systems utilize physical cred sticks loaded with these digital credits. Entering the lobby of Galbank Tower, the captain saw a pair of employees behind the counter and a bored-looking woman sitting on a couch. The captain stopped to speak with the sitting woman first. Maria Siarkowitz, as she was known, was something of an introvert with a sense of humor. When asked why she was there, she told the captain it was to get a job as a banker, the job she wanted as, in a world without magic, she couldn't be a necromancer. The captain left her behind and headed for the front desk. While Matthew Montez didn't have much to say, Landry Hollifield was quite talkative and in fact had worked for the captain. Landry was looking for a debt collector. He explained that while debt collectors weren't the most popular people, they performed a necessary duty. If people were able to get away with defrauding Galbank, the credits they didn't repay couldn't be used for other loans, to expand the bank, or to repay investors. He needed someone with a ship who was willing to face a bit of danger. The captain agreed to hunt down a scofflaw named Dieter Maliki and headed back out into the commercial district. Just next door to the south, the captain found Outland. While Centaurian Arsenal in the residential district sold arms, Outland sold armor, or more specifically, spacesuits. Though the proprietor, Cornelius Townard, had never left New Atlantis, his goods had on the backs of many adventurers, and a high rate of repeat business spoke to the quality of his goods. The captain browsed his wares and headed back outside. Just south of Outland, the captain entered the New Atlantis branch of Enhance. The physique remodeling service in this city was proffered by Warner Connell. When the captain spoke to Mr. Connell, they mentioned just how much sensitive data the company surely had on its customers. Mr. Connell nearly had a panic attack at the mention of this, and revealed that he had left a slate of confidential customer information somewhere in the commercial district. When the captain agreed to help him get it back, he told them that he had likely left it at the nearby Brew Coffee, the Valberg building, or at Whetstone. The captain left the Enhance office and headed towards Brew. As they walked, the captain saw the Infinity Ltd building next door and stopped in. The receptionist, Desi Zhang, told the captain that the company wasn't speaking to anyone without an appointment and that she couldn't make appointments. With that, the captain left and took a look at the sign. It wasn't bad, but the captain thought that it could use a little red in it to make it pop. The captain came next to the Upper City's Brew Cafe. Though they didn't see Warner's slate, the captain did meet George St. George, the man who had won Guillaume de Garmo's precious gem. George was a longtime resident of New Atlantis and, like Guillaume, was a collector. The captain made the agreed-upon trade of Guillaume's plate for the gem, a trade that George was happy to make, though he noted he would have simply given the gem back had Guillaume asked. Though the gem was precious to Guillaume, it was a simple geode cut for desktop display. As he seemed a worldly man, the captain asked if he would be willing to read the last of Tommy Bitlow's articles. George was happy to, and was quick to announce his disgust. He first criticized the grammar, claiming that it was painful to read the article. Then he wished it was printed so it would at least have worth as kindling. His direct feedback? Please, stop writing. With the last of the feedback for Tommy logged, the captain left the cafe and headed up the neighboring ramp. Though they intended to check in on the other sites for Warner's lost slate, the captain first wanted to report to Nadia Mufaz at SSNN on the interviews they had performed for her in the well. The captain confirmed for Nadia that the denizens of the well needed all the help they could get. She thanked the captain for their work, and they departed for the Valberg building. Upon entering the western lobby of the building, the captain rode the elevator up to the offices of Argos Extractors, their old employer. Known for taking mining jobs other companies wouldn't, Argos got the job done faster than their competitors and at a lower cost. Though the captain didn't find Warner's slate, they did discuss their former company with Aurora Sabine. Aurora recognized the captain as the new hire from the Vectera job. The captain reported the incident on Vectera. Aurora wasn't thrilled that the site had been attacked by pirates, nor that the employees had had to engage in combat, but she was thankful that the captain had fought them off. After looking around and dealing with a passive-aggressive employee, the captain rode the elevator back down to the lobby. From there, they went next door to the Whetstone. After speaking with the proprietor, Alara Catrango, about her restaurant, the captain looked around the tables and found Warner's lost slate. The captain returned to Enhance and brought the slate back to Mr. Connell. Warner was ecstatic. He was incredibly thankful for the assistance and told the captain that he hoped that his mistake hadn't hurt their view of the company. Leaving Enhance, the captain returned to UC Distribution, where they once again found Johann Baptiste and shared Marcus Lestari's invitation to return to church. A people person, Johann was thrilled to receive the invitation and told the captain they would likely return to the Sanctum Universum. Departing UC Distribution, the captain headed for the Spaceport. Moments later, they were at the Brew Cafe, where they returned Guillaume's precious gem to his profuse thanks. Leaving the cafe, the captain headed for the nearby elevator, but instead of heading down to the well, they took it up to the waterfall promenade. Here, overlooking the spaceport, they found Tony Cowell, the last person on Marcus Lestari's list. Tony also just so happened to be the boyfriend of Donna Rain, the janitor from the masked Nat station. He was enamored with her and was planning on asking her to marry him before their trip across the settled systems. Tony was generally receptive to the Sanctum Universum's message, but was hesitant to go back, both because he had trouble with faith, and because he was afraid of disappointing people if he went a few times and then stopped going. Tony told the captain that they would think about going back to the Sanctum, but the captain was fairly certain it wasn't going to happen. Regardless, they had the responses Marcus Lestari desired. The captain headed back down to the spaceport and returned to the security office. They told Sergeant Yumi about the events at Dawn's Roost and returned Hugo's engagement ring. Sergeant Yumi thanked the captain and they headed back outside. With so many missions waiting for them off-world, the captain began to make their way to the frontier. Before they left, at the base of the launch pads, the captain found Tommy Bitlow and returned the feedback they had received. Despite the universal and damning condemnation of his abilities, he was undeterred and had big plans for his career. Leaving Tommy to his delusions, the captain took to the skies, heading first to the third planet of the Porma system and the Red Mile. While the site was known for competitive blood sport, the captain wasn't here to partake in that particular event that day. Instead, they headed around the structure to the left and found the package Vicente Salinas had asked them to pick up. With his mysterious bundle in hand, the captain left Porma 3 and it headed for Voli Alpha. The ocean world was home to Neon. Once a fishing platform, the discovery of the psychotropic properties of the oil rendered from the native chasm bass had birthed a pleasure city that was now one of the primary cities in the Freestar Collective. The captain landed and headed through security. At the end of the core of the platform, the captain rode the elevator up the trade tower to the offices of Stroud Eklund. Here they found Issa Eklund, the wife of Walter Stroud. The captain telegraphed her husband's message about rerouting Jules Verne, and she asked what they had talked Walter into. She explained that her husband had a cred stick with a hefty load of credits tucked away in a copy of Around the World in 80 Days. She handed over the credits and wished them luck. The captain departed Neon and made their way to the barren moon Orpheus in the Olympus system. Orpheus was home to Dieter Maliki, the first debtor the captain was chasing for Galbank, though the captain sensed that Mr. Maliki could have made his home on any number of worlds. After landing and a short hike, the captain found Mr. Maliki's hideout and headed inside. Dieter was not happy to see the captain, guessing the purpose of their visit before they even opened their mouth. Though he initially demanded the captain leave and refused to pay what he owed, the captain talked him into making right on his debt. With that, the captain departed Orpheus and headed back to the Alpha Centauri system. They weren't ready to head back to New Atlantis just yet though, and instead docked with UC Research Station RE-939 orbiting Voss. This was once the star station where Ricardo Bosch worked, Bobby Katz lived with his parents, and Helena Chambers was the administrator. Within, the captain found the carnage left behind by the Varun Zealots, and, unfortunately, those same Zealots were still there. The captain battled through the station, searching for Ricardo Bosch's lost data slate. Along the way, they learned that Helena Chambers had been a truly unpleasant administrator, threatening her research scientist underlings with reassignment to, as irony would have it, barista. Along with this, the captain found that the station was researching a variety of plants and animals. The value of the research varied from exploring the anti-cancer properties of one plant to determining how long one could survive being swallowed alive by one of the animals. Oddly enough, there was an entry about a psychoactive property of one of the plants that led a researcher to have a dream about being devoured by a snake. Regardless, the captain found Ricardo's data slate and headed back to the frontier. A short flight later, and they were back in New Atlantis. On landing, the captain headed up to the viewport, bringing Nissa Marcano the investment funds of Walter Stroud. While she was thankful, she asked the captain to look for a second investor. She didn't like the idea of having a single investor because of the level of influence that one individual would have. She asked the captain to find a third party to dilute Walter's power. The captain volunteered 10,000 of their own credits to the venture. In awe, she thanked the captain and promised a return on investment. With that, the captain left the viewport and headed back outside. A short trip on the Nat and an elevator ride later, and they were once again in the Defense Research Department of MAST. Ricardo Bosch was thrilled to have his research back, and he rewarded the captain as best he could. Leaving the lab and MAST, the captain once again found himself in the Embassy District, walking over to the Sanctum Universum. It was here that they met with Marcus Lestari and reviewed the results of the outreach. Though not everyone the captain had reached out to was likely to return, Marcus was happy enough with the results. A quick walk down the street brought the captain to Galbank and Landry Hollifield. Landry was very pleased with the captain's efforts in the Dieter Maliki case and offered them a new one. In this case, they were hunting a spacer that had managed to secure a loan. Spacers are unaligned bandits hated by all, so the fact that a spacer had managed to get a loan from Galbank was quite a black eye. Landry figured there was no way the captain would be able to talk them down like they did Dieter, so he told them to prepare for battle. While the captain wanted to look into this, they also wanted to check in with Sergeant Yumi to see if he had any more work for them. A short ride on the Nat later, and they were back in the spaceport. Sergeant Yumi was ready with another mission. This time he wanted the captain to investigate contraband smuggling in the spaceport. While most things are legal across the settled systems, there are items banned in most ports. These items range from drugs like Aurora, which is only legal to use in Neon, to black market organs, and even technologies banned by the Armistice. Sergeant Yumi had received tips that there was a captain smuggling prohibited items into New Atlantis. The captain agreed to investigate and headed out to the launch pad to interview ground crews. While the first crew member they came across didn't have much useful to say, the second had noticed some odd goings-on. The crew of a ship with the identifier ID number UC-576B had been rude, and were moving goods that didn't look much like the potatoes they claimed to be shipping. With this information, the captain headed to Mast and Agent Plato. Just as UC Security had helped out Aegis, Aegis helped them. And in this case, Agent Plato had a list of ships suspected of smuggling. Recognizing that the ID number provided by the ground crew matched the ship Anansi on Agent Plato's list, the captain had a new lead. Returning to Sergeant Yumi, the captain shared this information and then, with Sergeant Yumi's permission, went to search the ship. On board the Anansi, the captain indeed found a shipment of contraband. Seeing that she was caught, Malawi Ndiaye, the captain of the Anansi, offered the captain a bribe to forget what they had found. Unwilling to aid this smuggler, the captain turned her down, and she drew on them. After a quick gun battle with Captain Ndiaye and her crew, the captain returned to Sergeant Yumi with the news. The sergeant paid the captain for their assistance, and promised to search the Anansi for any additional contraband. Still a bit amped up from the gunfight, the captain decided to take down another criminal. Boarding the frontier, the captain jumped into space and was soon in the Sol system. Although the captain was sure that this delinquent spacer could have been in orbit above any one of the many moons across the settled systems, in this case they found the Scofflaw flying above Saturn's moon Rhea. After turning the ship of the delinquent spacer and those of their allies into slag, the captain jumped back to New Atlantis and made their way to the commercial district and Galbank. Once again, Landry was glad to cross another debt off his list and paid the captain for their trouble. Before they left the bank, the captain took another contract, hunting down a missing and delinquent CEO. With another job Offworld in hand, the captain headed back out into the commercial district. Realizing they were still carrying Vicente Salinas' package on them, the captain headed via the Nat and the elevator to the well. As the captain descended the stairs, they heard a commotion coming from UC's surplus and saw Antonio Bianchi arguing with a young woman in a pilot's jumpsuit. She seemed to be complaining about a pair of boots that Mr. Bianchi sold her that were giving her bad luck. As he agreed to give a refund and the woman departed, the captain stopped her. Her name was Altagracia Gonzalez. A resident of the well, she hoped to become a captain in the UC Vanguard, in large part to get out of the well. Letting her leave the shop, the captain headed over to speak with Antonio Bianchi about the argument. The shopkeeper told the captain that the boots Miss Gonzalez had been looking to return had been sold and returned several times, with every owner claiming they brought bad luck. The boots had come to him as goods seized from a house-run ship, which was enough to concern him had he not felt the bad luck effects himself. He tried to get rid of the boots by throwing them out of an airlock, but somehow they had made their way back to him. He had considered just destroying them, but feared releasing whatever was within them that made them unlucky. Not knowing what else to do, he wanted them deposited somewhere far away. To that end, he asked the captain to take the boots to the Din Star Station in the Wolf system and leave them in a crate there. That way he would know where they were and they wouldn't affect him anymore. The captain agreed and took the boots off his hands. With more business to take care of in the well, the captain headed back outside. Remembering their promise to return to Teresa Mason at Kay's house and help her with her suspicious guests, the captain headed next door. Teresa was happy to see the captain and told him that she feared these potentially criminal diners were planning on robbing the UC surplus. While the captain offered to go to UC Security with her concerns, she told him that she'd rather have more proof before getting the authorities involved. Thus, she asked the captain to snoop on the pair of potential criminals. The captain agreed and headed back out into the well. The captain saw a couple of men huddled in the shadows near the UC surplus. Hoping to surreptitiously eavesdrop on them, the captain climbed the stairs near the elevator and pretended to be engrossed in a Trident ad. It rapidly became clear that Teresa was right. These two were up to no good. The captain returned to Teresa and revealed what they had heard. With her suspicions confirmed, she asked the captain to go to the security office at the end of the street and speak with Officer Carson Endler about her concerns, telling them to tell the officer that she had sent them if he needed additional cajoling. The captain did as she asked and found the officer did indeed respond to a Teresa name drop. He promised to patrol the area himself. As the officer went out into the well, the two would-be thieves skulked away. The captain was glad to see this, but noted that the UC surplus was right across the street from the UC security office with its two guards stationed outside, and wondered just how stupid these two would-be robbers were. Regardless, the captain headed back to Teresa, who was thankful for their intervention. With her promise to Teresa fulfilled, the captain headed back to Apex Electronics with Vicente Salinas' package. Mr. Salinas was grateful for the delivery and opened his business to the captain. It turned out that in the back room of Apex Electronics, Vicente operated Salinas' hardware, an arms dealer. Surprised by this turn of events, but happy to have another shop open, the captain browsed his wares before heading back out into the well. Though the captain had already helped Teresa Mason as promised, they still needed to help Talia O'Shea, the nurse at the med bay, with her sick kid problem. She was happy the captain had made good on their word and explained the situation. There were several children in the well that had a stomach condition that she was having trouble diagnosing and thus treating. She asked the captain to venture up to Reliant Medical to request diagnostic aid from Dr. Alexei Lebedev. The captain agreed and headed for the elevator at the eastern end of the well, which rose to the mast NAT station. A short walk later, and they were once again in the office of Dr. Lebedev. The doctor spoke well of Nurse O'Shea and was happy to lend his assistance, providing a data slate relevant to gastrointestinal issues. With the slate in hand, the captain returned to the medbay and a grateful Nurse O'Shea. With that, the captain returned to the well outside. Just across the street to the east, the captain spotted a woman who looked quite frustrated. Her name was Luisa Reyes, and she was a member of MAST here in the well investigating brownouts. The captain had heard rumors of this issue from passing security officers and wanted to help. Ms. Reyes explained that her co-worker, Carl, was late and she needed help tracking down the source of the brownouts. All the captain had to do was flip a series of switches across the well as requested. The captain agreed to help and headed for the first breaker near the UC surplus store. After flipping the switch, Luisa related the location of another, and the captain was on the move again. After flipping the second switch, they were given the location of a third and then a fourth switch. Along the way, they saw posters of the space frog from outer space on the walls of the well. Someone had helped spread the work of Renee Shelby off Mars, just as the captain had when they were in Cydonia. After this last switch flip, Luisa believed she had determined the source of the power disruptions: the Trade Authority. The Trade Authority and the UC had never been on the best terms. The Trade Authority were free trade absolutists, willing to trade even those items considered contraband by organizations like the UC. For Luisa, the idea that the Trade Authority was illegally siphoning power from the grid seemed fully in keeping with her MO of skirting the law. She thanked the captain for helping to track the source of the brownouts, and told them that she was going to confront Zoe Kaminsky at the Trade Authority, and that she would welcome their assistance in this. The captain agreed, and the two walked over to the Trade Authority premises. Luisa came in hot, immediately accusing Zoe of malfeasance. Ms. Kaminsky denied any allegations of wrongdoing and went into the back under the auspices of checking something. Worried that she was going to come back violently, Luisa asked the captain to be ready for anything. These fears proved baseless when Ms. Kaminsky returned a moment later, telling the captain and Ms. Reyes that she had indeed found the source of the power draw on their equipment, but had determined that theirs was simply another point in the chain of breakers. She told the captain that she would work with them to determine the true source of the power theft. Caught wrong-footed, Luisa asked the captain to continue their investigation. The captain began to make their way to another breaker, now in contact with both Zoe and Luisa over the radio. The captain found their way through the labyrinth that was the northeastern well, eventually crossing a broken catwalk to find the next breaker. After flipping the switch, Zoe and Luisa had an argument over which switch came next. Trusting the expertise of Luisa over Zoe, the captain was soon climbing the stairs by Kay's house on their way to the next switch. With this breaker flipped, the path led out of the well. The power was being siphoned through the well to the upper city. Though this took it out of Luisa's jurisdiction, she wanted to see the job through and stayed with Zoe. The captain soon found their way to the exterior of the Athena Tower. After flipping another breaker, the path led to an apartment in the tower. The captain rode the elevator up and picked the lock of the offending apartment. Within the poorly furnished space, the captain finally found the source of the power draw, a system that was performing a salami slicing operation on transactions. And taking 1,000th of a credit of every ATM transfer on the network attached to the system, these thieves had amassed over 300,000 credits for themselves. The captain downloaded all the information they could off the computer and returned to the Trade Authority. Though Zoe had offered to pay the captain for this information, they handed it over to Luisa. Zoe had said that the Trade Authority would hand over relevant information to MAST, but exactly what they would do with the other information, the captain didn't know, nor did they want to be part of some blackmail operation against the thieves, or whatever else Zoe had in mind. Regardless, Luisa thanked the captain, and they headed back out into the well. Considering that Kelton Fresh might once again need their help, the captain returned to the elevator to MAST and made their way to the Arboretum of the Embassy District. Alright, that'll do it for part 3. Thanks for watching, see you in part 4.